I'm showing you here is the 3D scan data of the scene. So I didn't take this data. This was done by Manatee County investigators. I took the individual scan worlds and then blended them together. This is a process called registration. And I'll move you through it. Hopefully we don't get a jump between my laptop and what we see on the screen. So again, this is not a computer game. These are actually millions of individual data points. You can see in some of these places the individual spots. Each one of those is a data point collected by the scanner. And as we look down on the scene here, you're looking at the sort of wood-looking floor. You can see a tape on the floor. And now I'm going to switch perspective such that we're going to slide down to the side to allow you to get a feeling for what we're looking at. So as I move through this, you're now looking towards the doorway, exiting the bedroom, over the top of the room.
Mr. Haig, I'm sorry to interrupt.
Please.
This is the room where the shooting took place.
That's my understanding. There are certainly fired cartridge casings, 4 of them in the room, as well as a bullet hole going into the wall here.
Okay, and that would be the mattress on the right-hand side that was leaning against the wall?
That's correct. Where I'm moving my hand cursor right here in the data is a mattress.
Okay. And are you able to, from that perspective, yet see the entrance to the room?
Yes, I can swing us around so that we look into the room even, if you wish. So as I come down in the data, I can put us in the doorway.
Okay.
So that's a view into the room, and we can then even come into the room in that manner and pan around and see the room. Within the room, as I mentioned, we have a perforation into the wall, a nice round hole. As I recall, this is impact site 11 maybe, but if I swing around here, I can actually show you where that is. So the shadows you're seeing on the wall here are from the tools the investigators use. These are very common tools in our industry, trajectory rods. For this type of scanner, they often put a sphere over that rod, so that's why you see a round shape there as well. But the main point here is that there is an impact site in the wall right here. That's where a bullet hole exists. From that, I took 2 different approaches to create this trajectory for visualization for you. One, I simply took the scanned data, basically their trajectory rod in place, and looked at the many, many data points on that and extrapolated a line from it. If we use that method, the trajectory for that looks like this. So this is the blue line that comes out of that, and I'll swing you directly above it so you can get what's called the azimuth viewpoint first. I'm going to click us back into what's called an orthogonal view. So looking at this trajectory, you can see how as viewed, it has a slight left to right aspect to it, and it's traveling from the bottom of the screen as you're seeing it into the wall at the top of the screen. Now, the county investigators did a nice thing. They did 2 different ways with this trajectory, not only the trajectory rod itself, but they took the rod and then put a laser on one end and shined it across the room, so the bottom wall as you're looking at it here, and measured where that dot was on the wall. So I simply took their data and connected the dots also. So between the perforation in the wall to their laser dot, and that line looks like that, so green and blue. In the trajectory world with walls, this is decent agreement between these 2 methods as far as the accuracy that we come to. And in fact, if I put plus or minus 5-degree cones, I talked about the error earlier, on both of these, we can see that those 2 cones look like that. That's actually a 10-degree cone for each of them, the green and the blue. And so from the data that I have for this case, for this one shot, I would include any area within that cone, either one of those cones, as the area where the firearm would have been at the time that shot was fired. I can also show you this from the side view to give you an idea of the vertical component. So I'm going to remove the left wall of the bedroom as you're looking at it here, and I'm going to swing you down.
What we were just watching is the testimony of an expert hired by Ashley Benefield. Ashley Benefield is a Floridian who is accused of murdering her husband. The thing is, she actually killed him, she shot him, and went next door to the neighbor and said, hey, I just shot my husband, I need your help. And so she is now on trial, not for shooting him, because that is very clear, she shot him. She is on trial rather to determine if it was depraved heart murder or in fact some type of, spousal self-defense, abused spouse defense. So the trial started last week. I've been watching it because, as you know, our YSL trial has been on hold, and I really hadn't heard anything about the case when I started watching last week. After starting watching last week, Belinda and I went and watched the 48 Hours, which did like a whole background summary recap, and it sounded rather suspect. Then, as I watched the trial, it also sounded really suspect. And over the weekend, well, first on Friday, Ashley, the defendant, the accused, testified in her own defense. And if any of y'all have been watching me at all, which I think quite a few of you have, you know that a defendant should not be they should not be testifying. They have a Fifth Amendment right to remain silent, and they should actually utilize that. Okay. So she's decided that she's so smart and so wonderful that she is going to testify in her defense. Okay, so that's a red flag to me, of course. And then I saw over the weekend that she did an interview with the media. So we're going to look at that together, because that says everything to me that I need to know. Okay, before we get into that though, this is a Florida court, so I don't know a lot about Florida. As you know, I am a Texas attorney. I am located in the DFW area. I primarily do real estate, so I'm in the courtroom, but in a civil courtroom, not criminal typically. So for some reason, this community, she only has 6 jurors, 5 women and 1 man. Okay. So I watched some preliminary trials when they were doing motions in limine, and I could see the judge getting pretty irritated with Ashley's defense counsel. And I kept wondering, like, why does she have this lawyer? And I figured it out a little while later. So we'll talk about that here in a minute. Okay. Here we go. Thank you, Karen. Hi, Enye. Hey, everyone. Thanks for joining us this afternoon. Okay, so this is day 1 of the trial. Right here, this guy here, right behind Ashley, the defendant, is the equivalent of my Boleyn, which I've established is the equivalent of Shaquille Kokomo in the YSL trial. Okay. So before the trial started, the judge ruled that the defense attorney's Boleyn was not allowed to sit at defense table and had to sit in the pews and use a TV tray to hold the computer. Okay, so that is why he is back there. The judge is often looking in a way I would call perplexed at the defense. Let's look at this.
Victim of the crime, the victim's next of kin, the parent or guardian of a minor child victim, or a lawful representative of such person. It's the disjunctive, not the conjunctive, so pick one. you can have the victim's next of kin or a lawful representative of such person. Pursuant to Marcy's Law and pursuant to Rule 90.616 2D, I don't find that one of their presences would be overly prejudicial. As we usually would, keep them in the back, and it shouldn't be a problem.
What is the statute the court cited?
90.616 2A.
So this is not in front of the jury. This is talking over some motions in limine.
And of course, if somebody's released from their subpoena, all right. That was a lot for not having any motions. You ready to go? State?
Yes.
Yes. Defense. Okay.
Sorry, guys. Okay. This is a classically trained ballerina, okay? When she met her husband, he was 54 and she was 24. She was very, very, very glamorous, very fit, very attractive. You'll see some pictures. We'll go to we'll watch the interview of her together, and you will see she is so to the nines beautiful. But here in this courtroom, she has got Amish lady going for her. She has not dyed her hair in gosh knows how long. She's really enhanced the grays right there. The under eye bags are absolutely emphasized and not hidden. So this is a very different look than her everyday look. So we'll get into that. And we'll even see like her everyday look after the murder in this interview. And all of that goes to how and why I think what I think, which I'm going to get into in a second here. Okay. So just look how like incredibly sad and conservative and unwell she looks. And we'll compare that to her interview and how she actually looks in real life.
Bring the jury.
Was 54 years old. Ashley Benefield was 24 years old. So there was a 30-year age gap between the two of them. They knew each other 13 days and they got married. Ashley Benefield was very into the ballet, had been an ex-dancer.
Okay, yeah, sorry, I forgot to mention that part. They knew each other for 2 weeks. So his wife had just died of a heart attack at 49, and him and his wife had been married for like 20 plus years. And then he met Ashley at some political something or other, and within 2 weeks of knowing her, they got married. Now, mind you, she's only 24, so like you can't really necessarily say that she should have known better. He's 54, so he certainly should have known better. Okay.
Her dream was to start a ballet company. And lo and behold, her husband has the money and the connections to get this done. So he begins and she begins to put this ballet company together. And they do put a ballet company together, but before it can actually take off, it falls apart. before they're married even a whole year, so in April of 2017, Doug Benefield has his vasectomy reversed because they want a child. Within weeks or months of the vasectomy reversal, the defendant is pregnant. So all within a year of being married, they have done a vasectomy reversal, gotten pregnant, started a ballet, and the ballet has crumbled.
That's a busy first year of marriage. That's a very busy first year of marriage, particularly since they only knew each other for 2 weeks upon the day of marriage. So really, this is like a year and 2 weeks into this is like while you're still should be getting to know someone. All of those things are happening. And the dude reversed his vasectomy so that they could have a child. That's a lot, guys. And there's a lot of really, I would say, too coincidental happenings along this timeline that are very suspicious. But remember, when she meets this man, she's only 24. Right now, sitting in the courtroom, I believe she's like 32. So, I don't know. It's really interesting. They obviously did not know each other when they got married, right? So here they are in the first year of their marriage, having this failed ballet thing, company that she's trying to start, and him having the vasectomy reversal, and she gets pregnant. So that's, I don't know, that's very stressful. And it's a lot of rushing, and I don't necessarily understand why. Yes, and she is very close in age to his daughter, and we'll talk about her soon.
While Ashley is pregnant, she decides she's too sick from the pregnancy, morning sickness, and that she needs her mother to take care of her. Her mother's in Florida, in Bradenton, Florida. So during her pregnancy, she moves to Bradenton, Florida to live with her mother so her mother can take care of her during the sickness. The two never lived together again. This was the last time these two lived together. They continued a long-distance relationship when she first moved to Florida and continued trying to keep it together in communication. But about the same time as the ballet...
Do you see all that blinking? She does so much blinking. Just like watch her blinking while the prosecutor is doing this opening. I don't know. I went to check and see if the behavior panel has done one on her, and I haven't seen that they have. I couldn't find one. But I think it would be really interesting to see what they had to say. The blinking I find to be poignant. You know, this lady saying, well, this is the last time they ever lived together, and she starts blinking a lot. So, yeah, maybe that's because she had some kind of plan or something.
Collapses right about all of this time. Ashley Benefield starts complaints against the victim. Her complaints are things like, the main one was that Doug Benefield was poisoning her with heavy metals, and her unborn child was being poisoned, that there was poison in her tea, that he was giving her poison. There were also other complaints, domestic violence complaints, different types of complaints, but not once will you hear that she ever said he hit her. Not once did she ever say he choked her, kicked her.
Okay. So this is a problem. This is an opening statement. So we should be hearing from this prosecutor things like, through the course of the trial you will learn, evidence will show, evidence will prove to you. We haven't heard any of that. She's just talking very matter-of-factly about everything. And so if Ashley Benefield had a high-quality attorney, like the attorney we see, the defense attorneys we see in the YSL trial, if she had a attorney that was a really good attorney, there would be objections in this opening. This opening is very argumentative. This is not an opening statement. So there would have been at least one objection by now. For the first few days of the trial, I kept thinking, why does she have such a bad attorney? I even said to Boleyn, is he court appointed? And she said, no, he couldn't have a Boleyn if he was, which is a great point. Court appointed attorneys don't have assistants. They don't have wonderful technology people. They don't have, a Gen Zer who understands things to support them, right? So he is obviously paid for out of pocket. So then I'm like, well, why is he so bad? And when we get into her interview, we'll see. I'll be able to explain to you why I think she has this lawyer as opposed to one who is properly objecting in this opening. All right, that's my 2 cents. We'll get back to it.
Anything like that. Even though she's making these complaints, the victim, Doug Benefield, is still trying to make this work. And you're going to see some text messages and hear some things. He's still trying to make this work. But she is having none of it. So at about the time that she's ready to give birth, Doug Benefield contacts an attorney here in Florida, Sarasota, Florida, Stephanie Murphy, and asks her to help. And asks her to help him write a letter to her, to Ashley Benefield, to state that he wants to be a part of the birth and he wants to be a part of this child's life and to please keep in contact with him. Ashley never answers that letter. That letter is sent via email on March 15th of 2018, which was several weeks early. She wasn't due yet. And the next day, she is induced, her pregnancy is induced, and she gives birth to a daughter.
Right. Okay, so this is a terrible opening. She has not said evidence will show, none of that. Hello, another CG, good to see you. Thank you, everyone that's here. Okay, so she has not said the evidence will show. She's just saying things like they're facts. Again, if Ashley had a better defense attorney, there'd be an objection. But did you hear what she said? Doug Benefield, the deceased husband, the man she murdered, hired an attorney to send a letter to Ashley Benefield that explained he wanted to be part of the baby's life, that he would like to be at the birth. The very next day, and weeks early, Ashley Benefield goes to the hospital and is induced. She has labor induced. That means she's not in labor. She goes to the doctor and she gets medications to put her in labor. The day after she received the email from Doug's attorney. Induced. No, she didn't go into labor. It's not like she went and ate some spicy foods and did a purposeful labor. She went to the hospital and said, I need you to induce me. She convinced someone at the hospital that having her baby induced 3 weeks early was the best form of care for her and her baby. Now that heavy metals thing is pretty important because once the baby's born, she tries to gain full custody and have Doug, poor Doug, pushed out of the baby's life. And the judge that rules over that is like, no, there's no evidence of this heavy metal thing. There's no evidence of any of this, and kicks it out. So the timing, this Ashley Benefield does the timing. So you went and got induced the day after you received the email. Come on.
She never tells Doug. He doesn't even know his child is born.
Oh yeah, she didn't tell the daddy.
And she never responds to the letter.
She didn't mention
The
to
way
him.
that Doug knows that this child is born is that Ashley Benefield starts filing complaints again. And based on these complaints, he figures out, oh, my child's born. And now we have more complaints. The complaints revolved around the poisoning and the things that I talked about earlier. And she filed for what's called a violation of injunction, or I'm sorry, she filed for an injunction. An injunction is our legal way of saying restraining order. So when someone wants a restraining order, they have to go through a process and go to court, and the court has to decide, and you get a restraining order. So that was her process. She was trying to get a restraining order against Doug, and the allegations were what I said to you. At the same time, Doug Benefield had not seen his child, had not met his child. So he did a cross complaint to say, please let me have contact with my child. I've never even met my child. So this was set for a hearing, and it ended up going 2 days. It was long. It was a long process, a lot of witnesses in family court, and it ended up going 2 days. It began in July 30th, 2018, and it finished on September 17th, 2018.
That's because family court is backed up. Okay. You need a hearing, you're going to get maybe 90 days from now. Maybe 90 days, right? So they got done on June. They said, oh, that's not, we need to there's no way they have time the next day. The judge is booked until September, so 3 more months. That's civil courts for you. You do not have a constitutional right to a speedy civil trial, okay? It is only a constitutional right to a speedy criminal trial.
And at the conclusion of that hearing, the judge said, no. No, you are not getting a restraining order, and no, you cannot keep this man away from his child. And granted Doug Benefield immediate visitation with his daughter. He met his daughter for the first time. She was 6 months old. And at the time when they were exchanging custody, which was at the sheriff's office for meeting the child, all of this animus had been going on. I mean, they had just had these hearings and all of this. And at that first time sharing, that's what they call it nowadays in family courts, time sharing. At the first time sharing, Ashley starts becoming very nice to Doug.
Isn't that interesting? She has to meet him at the sheriff's office or the cop shop, whatever, because he's so dangerous. And at that first meeting, she's ultra nice again. Again, this opening sucks because it doesn't say the evidence will show, you will learn. Like, it is completely incorrect. But Ashley Benefield's lawyer isn't good enough to make the objections, and so she continues. And she's giving us a nice outline. She's pretty much recapping the dateline, or the 48 hours. So if you want to go back and watch the 48 hours, or you could just listen to this opening statement because it's basically a brief version.
And says, basically, I'll go with you for the visitation. And that's what they do. The family goes off for visitation. And then begins a year, approximately a year, of basically them working on the relationship, going out to restaurants, doing things, hanging out together as a family. About a year. Now, Doug never moves in with Ashley. He keeps a separate residence. But after almost a year, so around August of 2019, Ashley just stops talking to him. Just stops. And that's about the time Doug files for divorce.
Could you imagine your wife ghosting you? Like, you made a lifetime commitment to this person. This is your spouse, and they just like quit contacting you, just stop contacting you, just completely ghost you. Shit's wild. It's wild. All right, just keep an eye on Ashley, y'all. She's an interesting character.
He finally says, okay, we're getting a divorce. Then what you'll hear is that the defendant started a whole new set of complaints. You will hear that she was involved in 5 different complaints, all revolving not around her this time, but about the child. Because now Doug has visitation with the child, so now these allegations are that Doug's abusing the child, and
Finally got the objection. Finally. Oh my goodness. Judge overruled it, but finally her lawyer objects. She's just out here puking things out like they're facts instead of saying the evidence will show. Fine. All right.
The allegations are that Doug's abusing the child. What you'll hear is that not one of these charges was ever prosecuted. Not one of these charges ever left law enforcement. So the defendant now has tried these 5 complaints after Doug filed for a divorce. Law enforcement's not helping her. No one has said that Doug cannot see this child, so there's still visitation going on. And in this meeting of all these people, it was decided that Doug and Ashley Benefield will go for a psychological evaluation. So they do. And they go to Dr. Broder, and Dr. Broder does a very extensive psychological evaluation. And he meets with them together. He meets with them separately. He meets with them with the child, whose name is Emerson, by the way. She's a little girl. And at the time of the shooting, she was about not yet 2 years old. During this evaluation, and what you'll hear from Dr. Broder, is that Ashley Benefield acted very different when she was with Doug and when she was not with Doug. When she was with Doug, it was, we're moving to Maryland, we're going to work on our relationship, we're going to try and make this family work. When she's not with Doug, she's saying, no way, no how, I do not want this, I don't want to reconcile with him. And to Doug's knowledge, all he's hearing is, I want to reconcile. So that's what he knows. That report was coming out at that hearing on September 30th, 2020. So September 30th, 2020, Ashley knew the ruse was up. Now, there had to be a request from both sides, the husband and the wife, to release this psychological report. And at one point before the hearing, Ashley Benefield tried to get Doug to drop that so the report would not get out, would not be released. Doug refused. So that report was coming out on the 30th, and on the 27th, she kills him.
Okay, so you get an email from a lawyer saying the father would like to be at the birth, and the next day suddenly the baby's born, induced. The judge says the father gets to have visitation, and the next day you reconcile with him. You ghost your husband. He files for divorce 3 days before the final hearing, where there's going to be a psychological report that's going to say he's a perfectly capable father. You kill him. I mean, to me, this is premeditated as it gets. I mean, it really is as premeditated as it gets. Like, when she started talking about this man poisoning her with heavy metals, her and the baby, that was clearly ramping up to be able to try to get the baby away from him and keep the baby for herself. Like, that's crazy. It's absolutely nuts. And when we watch her interview, I'll talk to you about how freaking crazy I think she is.
And claims self-defense. Now, you're probably going to hear a lot of information about Doug Benefield. Probably some negative things, not so nice things. I would just ask you to remember who's saying them and why. Just because someone speaks words does not make it true. So use your common sense as you go through this trial. This is a long story with a lot of information, but you'll see that this was a custody battle that this mother was going to win at all costs. And the cost was the life of Doug Benefield. And that is murder. Thank you.
Mr. Taylor.
Okay, now you get to see the defense and how poor this man does. So the prosecution did okay. She's a government employee. I don't expect much better from her.
Thank you, Judge Wright. May I request the court screen down?
He's gonna present in the dark. I mean, look at this fake, miserable face of hers. Like, look at her. Look at the blinking. She's even like turned her shoulders in. She's like, look how small she's trying to be.
Divide between generations. I'm in the old school. I'd like to know that I have a picture and it's reliable. This is the new world. We rely on technology. I'm not sure that I'm a fan.
Who is he talking to? Who is he talking to? Is that part of his opening? Like, this lawyer he's not good. He's not good at all. I think maybe he's talking to the clerk or the judge or someone. But they're just in the dark.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Oh, here we go. Here we go.
this is Douglas Benefield. He was 58 when Ashley Benefield was forced to shoot him. Can I see the second picture, please? I want you to note how he's built for a 58-year-old man. Now, despite being raised by a family who taught me that it was ill to speak about the dead in an unflattering sense, I'm going to have some strong words about Douglas Benefield, the alleged victim in this case.
Dude, he is not an alleged victim. He is the victim. Yes, another CG. This is how he talks through the whole trial. Like, he is obviously very, very old school. And he irritates the shit out of the judge all the time. I'm going to find like the judge's face for you because it is hilarious when this guy is irritating him.
On this afternoon, as the two of them are trying to pack this U-Haul in this pod, in an effort to avoid confrontation with him, Ashley says, after a short while, gee, you know, I'm really pretty exhausted. Why don't we stop for the day? We can finish tomorrow. Doug ignores it. His response is to grow increasingly aggressive and hostile. Not once, but twice, Doug body checks Ashley. And by body check, I mean he passes her in a hallway, slams his shoulder into her shoulder, almost knocking her over. That's not enough. The next thing is, as they're passing in a hallway, he's carrying a cardboard box. He jams the cardboard box into Ashley's side, which leaves scratches that the police photographer took. Again, now fearing for her safety because she sees how he is escalating in his behavior, she tries to persuade him, look, let's finish for the day. It's getting late. I'm tired. No go. Instead, Doug bellows, I know what you're doing. You're trying to get me to leave. I'm your husband, and I can spend the night if I want to.
so bad. He just says some stuff. Nobody objects. It's terrible. I'm going straight to the judge being irritated with this guy because this face is priceless.
So this doesn't say what you're asking him.
Do you see that look? Hold on.
Say that, or yes, I didn't feel that. Yes, I did feel that. So then the path was started on was refreshing recollection. As I've mentioned before, and I mentioned pre-trial, I expect attorneys to know the differences between impeachment by a prior inconsistent statement. That's one path. Refreshing recollection is a second path, and introduction of past recollection recorded, which is a separate path. And the reason I'm sustaining the objection is because it started off with refreshing. Does it refresh your memory? And then we got right back into the documents themselves, which I've already ruled were hearsay. So it's for impeachment purposes only. You can ask him about I allowed you to ask what his feelings were, but not to get into these documents themselves. I don't know how to say it any more clear than that.
So
If you're refreshing his recollection, then we're going to take that path.
yes, I believe I did that. I believe I refreshed his recollection, and he acknowledged that.
Do you see that? This judge is so irritated. He's thinking, this man is twice my age. He's had a law license as long as I've been alive. And he does not understand what impeachment is. This judge is probably thinking, the viewers of Cadillac Law know what impeachment is. They've watched her video. They would know how this shit works. I cannot believe I am doing this right now. That is his look. And this lawyer, her lawyer, is just completely oblivious to it. It's like he's not even watching the judge. It's like he doesn't even... It's wild. This judge is hilarious to me.
So then my question was,
What did you say? And that gets back to the documents. If he says his memory is refreshed, you take the document back, or whatever the thing is that you use to refresh recollection is to be retrieved. And then the person testifies from their own personal knowledge.
so once he said that he recalls, I then asked him if he said that you married the wrong Benefield. That's what I said. I will be happy to go through that again, Your Honor. Now, did I leave the document there when I asked him that? Yes. I didn't feel it was necessary to take the document back, but after he acknowledged that his memory was refreshed, I asked him, did you say...
Oh my god, he's a train wreck. He is a train wreck. Okay, so I'm like,
that she married
why
the
is this
wrong
guy so
Benefield?
bad? For some reason, I can't find day 2 in the interwebs. But in day 2, the divorce, or the family attorney of Doug Benefield, the husband, who had this fabulous pink dress and an amazing haircut, all of the women attorneys, the family law women attorneys that have testified have been supremely good looking. Anyhow, she was so cute, and she testified, and she was so sassy, and she said things like, yeah, I would have done that, but your client killed my client. It's just like, ooh. And I wish I could find her testimony because it was hilarious to me. I just thought she was so fun. Okay, so Ashley's lawyer, as you can see, struggles with being a lawyer. It's not something he's really great at. I'm imagining he's one of these guys that's just walking in and usually just doing plea deal after plea deal. I also I was like, why is he this way? And then she testified, and I said, oh, okay, I get it now. I'm trying to see if I can find, no, oh, hold, I might have it here. Yes, I found it. All right, so I'm gonna play you some of Doug Benefield's attorney being examined by Ashley Benefield's now defense attorney, because you know the whole family law thing's out the door.
It was so many years ago now. A series of things, but one of the first things that we filed was an amended petition for divorce. And so it was actually a motion for leave to amend with the amended petition attached to it, which is the procedure.
So that ultimately means it was not seeking divorce before, but now the petition is.
Yes, that's correct. And still the parenting plan with some additional allegations, but that's what the main first pleading was.
Okay.
Okay, she's
And
under
at
act.
some point after this was filed, did you get information that there had been complaints filed against Doug Benefield?
Yes, I did. So that amended petition was filed, I think, November 6th or 5th of 2019. And then within a month, I learned that there was a series of complaints filed with.
Check hearsay.
I'll sustain.
Ultimately, these complaints that were filed against Mr. Benefield, were they documented or filed in any way in your casework, in your cases?
Object relevance.
I'll overrule.
That's a dumb
So
relevance
of course we
objection.
didn't attach them as exhibits to our next pleading, but we did file an amendment.
Check editorialized.
Sustain. That would ask for a yes or a no.
Okay.
Can you repeat the question for me?
Those complaints, did they make their way, the information at least, into your filings in your cases?
Yes,
Okay.
that I sent. This is a draft of a letter. The letter that I sent on the 15th was on my letterhead, so this is not the letter.
Okay. The letter that you did send on the 15th, I think you told us, if I'm not mistaken, was an effort by you on Doug's behalf to advise Ms. Benefield, among other things, that he wanted to try to work things out.
Look at her.
I think that's
Look at her on day 2. Like a school marm.
No, that's not what I said this morning, nor was it the intention of the letter. And I don't have the actual letter I sent to verify, but there was nothing about reconciliation. The letter was about whether she would agree to him being present for the birth of his child, what was supposed to be the next month.
All right. So you
But what's
sent
the next
letter,
day? But what's the
to
next
see
day?
if she was willing to have him present for the birth of the child.
Yes, that's right.
We're in agreement.
Yes.
All right. Were you aware whether or not there was any prohibition at the time that you sent that letter from Douglas Benefield coming in contact with Ashley Benefield in any capacity?
I'm aware that there was an injunction that was entered by mutual agreements. It was what people refer to as a mutual restraining order out of South Carolina.
Correct. And it was in effect at that time, was it not?
It was. They would have had to
So
have a
that-
written agreement modifying that.
So that would have prohibited Mr. Benefield from being present with Miss Benefield, would it have not?
Now, I don't have the South Carolina order in front of me, but my recollection.
do.
Oh, that would help if I could see it then.
May I, Your Honor?
Isn't she sassy?
Yes.
I just loved her. Oh, well, that will help if I can see it then.
Transfer. Here's the order.
What
And
is
look
the
at Ashley
date of the
Benefield
transfer?
looking rough.
Well, the date of the hearing was November 3rd, 2017.
November 3rd. And you were aware that the order was entered for a period of 6 months, correct?
I wanted to, didn't you hand this to me for me to look at?
Sure.
Okay.
Okay, then let me look at it. Okay, quit asking me questions. Let me look at the damn thing. It's been several years, dude.
This order from the judge from his attorney's office, and it was after he sent the package.
Okay, so this report by Broder, the one that you acknowledge and the state suggests is the theory behind the homicide, Miss Benefield had signed a voluntary agreement to participate in that evaluation, correct? It was not court ordered. Isn't that what you told us?
It was not court ordered in the
Okay.
family law court.
So
I don't
she
know what she signed.
She voluntarily participated.
You know, I don't know. You're going to have to talk to the Manatee County Sheriff's Office because it came out of that office or the CPT office.
Well, you were the lawyer for Mr. Benefield. Was your client ordered to participate?
I don't know that we're in agreement with the word ordered. So when I think of an order, I think that a judge has ordered people to do something. And so we had filed a motion for a psychological evaluation in the family law court. And so if that judge had signed the order, that would have been an order. So my answer is I don't know if either of them were ordered to participate.
You don't have. you're
He
not
thinks he's
aware
getting
of
our
any
gotchas. He
command
just keeps
that
thinking he has a gotcha.
Either Mr. Benefield or Miss Benefield.
What we were told. That was not the case by the time we got to mediation. The situation had changed.
And do you have any documents that you brought here today to support your contention and the state's theory that the release of this report was the incentive for Miss Benefield to kill Douglas Benefield? Do you have any documents that show that that correspondence with the court's judicial assistant was wrong, and that the only matter being heard was not the domestic violence injunction?
Sustained.
Do you have anything that supports that the release of Dr. Broder's report was scheduled for the 30th?
I don't know what documents you got from Ms. O'Donnell's office. However, I did provide emails.
Do you have any documents here today?
I didn't bring anything, nor was I asked to.
Okay,
You should
so
have
you
the
knew,
emails.
wait, you knew you were coming to court to testify before the jury in a homicide case.
Objection, badgering.
Go ahead and answer your question.
That the incentive for Miss Benefield to kill her husband was the release of this report on the 30th. You don't have anything to support that other than what you've told us?
Sustained.
That's all.
Don't, sir, you have one more paper. Mr. Taylor. Don't forget your paper.
I guess he's unaware of how not good he is in a courtroom. Okay. So I'm like, did someone assign her this lawyer? How did she get such a bad lawyer? And then day 4 comes along, y'all, and we are able to see how and why she got this lawyer. Okay, any lawyer worth their weight in anything will not allow their criminal defendant client to testify. You have a Fifth Amendment right, you will exercise it. Brian Steele, YSL Steele, is never going to allow Young Thug to testify, okay? Because YSL Steele is a good lawyer. The reason this woman, Ashley Benefield, has such a shitty lawyer is because that's what she wants. She clearly wants an attorney who she can dictate the rules to. She's about, I'm going to show you some of her testimony. She testifies in open court in her own defense. That means she thinks that she's so smart that she can defend herself. Do you remember who else did that? Alec Murdaugh, as they called him. He did that. And they gave him a guilty within hours. It took them no time at all to determine that he was guilty. I believe because he looked like such a piece of shit on the stand. And y'all, this woman, I believe she has this kind of not as good lawyer defending her, because he is the only lawyer who would allow her to do this testimony and then do the interview she did this weekend. Okay, here we go.
Swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Okay, so she gets on the stand at 47:23.
Tell other witnesses, just make yourself comfortable in that chair. Get about 12 to 15 inches from the microphone. It does adjust up, down, left to right. And if you speak in a loud, clear voice, the electronics will pick up everything.
Okay.
Mr. Taylor.
Good morning. Will you tell us your full name and spell your last name, please?
Ashley Christina Benefield, Benefield.
How are you feeling this morning, Ashley?
Nervous.
All right, try best you can to relax and we'll get through this.
Okay.
Tell us a little bit, Ashley, about where you were born and raised.
I was born in Corpus Christi, Texas, and I grew up in Annapolis, Maryland.
What type of family values were instilled in you?
Objection relevant.
I believe in the importance of kindness and compassion, empathy, honesty, hard work, accountability.
Do any of y'all believe she actually talks that way? Like, do any of y'all do any of you believe the way she just answered that question is like the way she would talk amongst her and her friends? If we met her on the streets, do you think she would talk to us that way? Like, are any of you buying it? Are any of you thinking she talks that way? I'm curious. I know I'm mean, so is it just because I'm mean and I'm biased? I think she's faking it. I don't know. Well, I need to know what y'all think, because it's like irksomely faked to me.
What type of work did your father do?
Objection relevant.
I'll allow it.
My dad was a Naval Academy graduate who was a Navy pilot, and then started flying privately for the airlines, which is what he still does.
And how about your mom?
When I was born, my parents decided that my mom would stay home to take care of me full time, since my dad traveled so much.
I want to ask you a few questions about your childhood. Did you have any siblings?
I grew up an only child.
The blinking,
Were
here comes
your
the blinking
parents
again.
active in your development as a child?
Yes, they were very active in my schooling and supportive of my pursuit of the arts.
Hey, hold on 1 second. I'm sorry. We need get some headsets. How many? Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize. I misunderstood. All right, Ms. Benefield, yeah, if you could scoot a little bit closer and speak up so the jury can hear you.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Crazy interruption.
Do the best.
I apologize. Go ahead, sir.
Sure, do the best you can, Ashley.
Okay.
Why is she crying?
Do you have any hobbies?
I love art. I like drawing, painting, sculpting, ballet. I enjoy gardening, baking, cooking. Most importantly, I'm a mom.
So domestic. Oh, she just made herself sound so domestic. Oh, I'm Martha Stewart, guys.
Objection. Can you
I'm going to sustain at this point.
I'm trying to establish her ballet, Your Honor.
All right. If it's related to something specific, then
Yes,
yes.
sir. Thank you. Tell us about your high school, Ashley.
I went to a small private Christian school.
And did you study anything in particular in high school?
I was focused on pursuing ballet at the sheriff's office.
Okay, and how about exhibit number 9?
Also scratches on my side.
From the same incident?
Yes, sir.
Also taken that evening at the sheriff's office?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and exhibit 10?
The same scratches as in 9. They're just, it's a close-up.
Do these photographs, Ashley, truly and accurately reflect the scratches and bruises you received on late that afternoon on September 27, 2020?
Yes.
Do they accurately reflect how the scratches looked when they were fresh?
Yes.
Thank you. I move respectfully, Your Honor, defense exhibits 8, 9, and 10 into evidence.
Any objection?
No.
They'll be received.
What was your response, Ashley, after being struck by the cardboard box?
I apologized.
Why would you have apologized?
Because I could see how upset he was, and I didn't want him to get more mad at me.
Where does Doug go after that incident?
He continued to the garage with the box.
And what happens at that point?
We started getting into a back and forth.
Guys, she reminds me so much of Amber Heard. I swear, she reminds me so much of Amber Heard. If she had the scratches on her, and dude threw a freaking box at her, that is not cool. It is not okay. I do not advocate any type of violence, period. But I am not buying this. I am not buying the excessive blinking. I feel like the extra blinks are to try to produce tears. And this, even just this look, I don't know. I have doubts about any defendant who insists on testifying on their own defense. Like, no, you're not that good.
Done for the day, and what still needed to be packed, and that I wanted to be done, and we ended up in our daughter's bedroom, and he started screaming at me. He said, "Shut the fuck up." He started calling me names. And
See the blinking?
he said, "I can see what you're doing. You're trying to get me to leave." He said, "I don't have to leave. I can stay and spend the night if I want to, because I'm your husband."
At that point, Ashley, how did you feel with respect to your own personal safety?
I was scared.
Did you take any steps to try to avoid anything further?
Yes, I ran to try to leave the house.
And where did you run to?
To the front door.
Did you make it?
No.
Tell us what happened.
He stopped me. He grabbed me.
Okay. The facial expressions are so forced to me. Like the way she's furrowing between her eyebrows and and I don't know. Like I just don't know. The other thing is, I can understand if this man is abusive, he's thrown a box, he's done these other things. But does that give rise to shoot him to death? Because she didn't just shoot him once, and like he's dead. She like shot him and he didn't die, so she shot him again. And that's kind of where I'm like, I don't know, man. I don't know.
By the hand, and he yanked me back. I'm not really sure how he did it, but he like spun around, so he was in front of me, between me and the door.
So,
He said,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Visa, where the fuck do you think you're going?
What was your response? Do you specifically recall? Tell us.
I just blurted it out and I said, I'm done and you need to leave now.
What was Doug's reaction to that command to leave now?
He said, you can't fucking leave me.
Then what happens?
He hit me on the side of the head.
If they fucking gave rise to getting killed, I would have been dead a long time ago. I probably would have made it past 6 years old, maybe 7. I don't know. So I just like him saying fucking is not really reason to kill him. You know, it's not really working for me.
Actually, I'm going to ask you what's been marked as defendant's exhibit number 7. Tell us what that represents.
It's a picture of my face.
Is it an accurate picture of what your face looked like on that night?
Yes, sir.
Who took that photograph?
I don't remember her name. She was at the sheriff.
Okay, so she gets so hysterical, the judge puts him on a break, and she's tucked over and just crying and sobbing. And look, I'm not really,
From the
I don't
elbow?
know.
For the blinds?
Oh, sure. One more set of lines.
Thank you, Dick.
Okay,
So
let's go to the cross, because the cross is more interesting. Now, I'm not going to say, oh, I wouldn't act that way if it was me, because I would never be in a situation where I killed someone, period. So, I don't know how I would act, because I would never kill someone, so it wouldn't happen. That being said, I think the crying is a bit much here. I think it's a little excessive, and I think it's a bit performative.
I would like to orient you to what we're looking at. So on the top line, it gives whether the messages are outgoing or incoming. That would be the third, fourth column that we're looking at. And what I would like you to do is read the body of these as we go through. I'm going to expand it so you can see it. And if you could just read these for the jury.
Oh, okay. One part is just looking at Renee.
Who is that from you or from Doug?
It's from Doug to me.
So from Doug, one part is just looking at Renee. Okay, go ahead.
I'll tell that part to start. The day I met her, I felt her before I saw her. Oh. My ex-husband lived to argue. Renee and I maybe argued 5 times in 15 years.
Hold it. She wrote, my ex-husband lived to argue. She was 24 when she met this dude. 24 and already divorced. And with someone who lived to argue.
And even then ended up laughing. Smiley face. I'm a clown at heart and love people being happy. That seems like a hard act to follow. Baby. Like, always being armed. Yes, my love.
And the outgoing messages are you or Doug?
So they go through a bunch of text messages with her and Doug. It's ridiculous. The best part of this cross is when they have her get up and reenact the shooting. I mean, this is so good. You couldn't even write this in Law and Order, man.
So you start shooting, and he does what?
He kept coming at me.
Okay, so then you keep shooting again. And he falls down on his back.
His legs went up in the air.
Okay, where do his legs go?
In the air.
How high in the air?
I don't know.
Do they go over his head?
I don't know. It's like his feet slipped out.
Okay.
And his feet and his legs went up in the air.
And were you still shooting at the time?
I don't remember.
Look at that shaking. Look how she's like shaking.
You can have a seat. So after this incident, you claim that you had swelling to your face, right?
Get right to the point. Oh my god, you guys, am I just like completely cold-hearted? Like, I am not buying this at all.
It's going to take a minute. All right, here's the jury. Can you please close up your nose? Put them
I'm
on
sorry.
your chairs. I'm going to ask you to step out for a minute. You can use the facilities. It's not.
I just am not, I'm not buying it. I'm not buying it. Okay. So when I saw that testimony, I said, oh, no wonder she has this lawyer, because she wants to go put on this performance, and only that attorney is willing to allow her to do that. He's like, I'm at the end of my career, whatever, who cares? I will just take the money, and my wife and I are going on a cruise anyhow. Okay. That theory that I had come up with completely solidified itself this weekend when this came out. I swear, you guys, this woman is such a narcissist. Here we go. This is from this weekend. This came out Friday. She testified. I was watching this on Saturday. Okay, here we go. Oh.
It seemed like a fairy tale. A beautiful ballerina, seen here dancing in the Nutcracker for the Maryland Youth Ballet, swept off her feet by a dashing older man. Married after only 13 days, Doug and Ashley Benefield seemed like they had it all. But less than 4 years later, Doug would be dead and Ashley charged with murder. Her trial in this Florida courtroom, dubbed the Black Swan Murder Trial.
The only person standing in your way is you.
After the movie starring Natalie Portman.
Because of your ballet background, some people have labeled you the Black Swan.
Look at her. Look at her. You guys, look at her. This is that same eye-shutting rolling that the judge just did a few minutes ago that I showed you. Like, look at her. She is so tired of having to talk about this. Like, at this point, she cannot believe she's still here defending herself. Like, why don't you guys believe her yet? Okay? What the, like, that is the look she's giving. This is wild to me. And she's got the ultra plain. You saw the picture they just showed of her. She is not a plain woman. She is very effeminate. She was very beautiful and attractive. And here she looks like she just got hit, like run over by a truck.
Yeah. What does that feel like?
I think what it comes down to is that the Black Swan has a catchy ring and it sensationalizes my life and my situation.
She loves that. She loves that. Did you see that? She looks up. She's so excited. It sensationalizes my life. And when she's talking to this reporter, she has that real Valley girl talk about her. But when we just heard her testifying, she was so weak and weepy and quiet.
And so they ran with it. And it's sad to me that people who don't even know me have this idea of a monster when they think of me.
Doug and Ashley met in 2016
That's
at a
what's sad
political
too.
event.
That's what's sad. It's not sad that your daughter's going to grow up without a father. It's not sad that your daughter doesn't have a father and her mom has had to spend time in prison. No, it's sad that people are going to think you're a monster. Are you kidding? Look at this. This is like night and day from how she looks in real life and how she looks at this trial.
They instantly connected despite their 30-year age difference. Doug was a recently widowed father to a teenage daughter, Eva. At her stepmother's trial, Eva testified about the early days of their romance.
They were just with each other all the time. It was very lovey-dovey. They never left each other's side.
Doug even reversed his vasectomy so he and Ashley could have a child together. But their whirlwind romance started to crumble. The ballet company they started together failed. Soon, their marriage fell apart.
Ms. Benefield was alleging that Doug had been violent toward her. She alleged that he, I think, had hit the dog, fired a gun into the ceiling. The biggest allegation was that he was poisoning her and their child in utero with heavy metals.
In text messages submitted as evidence, Doug admitted to shooting a gun in the home, writing, "I shot the gun. How many times did I tell you I was having a nervous breakdown?" And punching their dog after.
Oh yeah, so having a nervous breakdown is not an excuse for shooting a gun in your home, BT Dub. If every person that had a nervous breakdown shot a gun in their home, there would be so many more people dead, and it's completely unacceptable. And it's absolutely a form of abuse. So there is no doubt in my mind that this guy was bad to her at times, for sure, okay? It's just that everything in her life is so perfectly timed. So perfectly timed that it's hard to look outside of that and see these things and be compelled to have sympathy for her. That's all.
After an argument about his daughter, "I punched the dog because you got me so mad, like you wouldn't stop about Eva. Always Eva." Ashley sat down
Punching
exclusively.
the dog is no brain. Yeah, no, that's really bad. So if he's doing that kind of stuff, that is abusive and it's unacceptable. Should you kill him? I don't think so. Not in 2024. There's too many resources. Like in 1824 maybe, but no.
With 2020 co-anchor Deborah Roberts just before her trial began.
How are you doing?
It depends on the moment. Yeah, there's good days.
Okay, so this is before the trial began, but they didn't air this until after she made her testimony, so that might have been a part of the agreement. But look, she's just carrying that same look into this.
Days and rough days, good moments and rough moments.
You haven't spoken out before. Why did you decide to talk now?
I'm really doing it for other people. Because I know I'm not alone in this. There are women all over the country, all over the world, who have gone through or are going through hard situations behind closed doors until you have been there or it's someone that you know and care about. It's not something that you think about.
While pregnant with the couple's daughter, Ashley moved to Florida. Doug's former attorney testifying Ashley didn't tell Doug when she had the baby.
Gosh, we didn't know for a good 5 or 6 weeks after she was born.
He only.
I mean, that's kind of crazy too. Like, to have the baby and not mention it to anyone for 5 or 6 weeks until it comes up in a complaint, that looks pretty premeditated.
Only found out when Ashley filed a restraining order.
And so on May 6th, I saw that Ms. Benefield had filed a petition for protection against domestic violence. And in that filing, there was, she identified the birth date of the child, as well as I think the child's name, which is the first time we learned about that too.
Okay.
In opening statements, prosecutors claiming Ashley wanted Doug out of her life so she could raise their daughter alone.
Okay. This is Ashley after the murder, before the trial. This is Ashley after the murder, before the trial. So I think she's playing dress up at the trial. Or dress down, I guess. She's playing dress down at the trial because she looks just fine to me. At the trial, she looks like such a marm.
This case is about a woman who very early on in her pregnancy decided she wanted to be a single mother. When there was no other option, she shoots him and kills him and claims self-defense.
But Ashley's attorney countering that she was trapped in an abusive relationship.
Doug Benefield was a manipulative, cunning, and abusive man who absolutely insisted on control.
Doug's cousin Tommy also sitting down with 2020.
I'm here today to tell Doug's story because he's not here. We want to tell the truth. We want to acknowledge his flaws, his mistakes like he did, but we want him to be remembered for the great human man that he was.
Things came to a head on September 27, 2020. Doug was helping Ashley load a U-Haul at her mother's house. They were planning on moving to Maryland, with Doug living separately. According to court documents filed by the defense, Ashley says Doug struck her, hitting her on the side of her head, and then tried to keep her from leaving the room. The clinical psychologist who had previously evaluated Ashley and Doug testifying.
When I saw her after the incident, there was edema, swelling on the side of her face.
Ashley claims she feared for her life and shot him multiple times in self-defense before running to her neighbor's house.
She's with me now, quite upset. The weapon is here. We need the police before her mother and the little girl gets back from the park. I don't want them to find this.
Oh yeah, I forgot to mention one tiny little thing. When Doug got shot, her mom, Ashley Benefield's mom and daughter, happened to be at the park, playing at the park. They had been loading a U-Haul all day, moving, and Doug got there in the evening, and I guess her mother still had the energy to take the child to the park. So conveniently, neither her mother nor the child were at the home when this incident occurred. Again, the timing in this woman's life is just too pristine. It is just too pristine. She gets the email saying, hey, we want to be there at the birth. The next day she's induced. The judge says the husband gets to see his child. The next day they're getting back together. She decides she wants to kill him. Her mom and daughter are conveniently at the park.
Now 32, Ashley choking back tears as jurors heard that 911 call.
She came in, she was quite hysterical. I didn't know who was banging on my door. It said that he attacked her and she shot him. They've been having trouble.
Doug's adult daughter, Eva, telling 2020 she doesn't believe it was self-defense.
If it was self-defense, why did she shoot multiple times? You know, if I was defending myself in a situation, I would shoot once and I wouldn't shoot to kill.
Yeah, then
I wouldn't
right.
take a life away.
Exactly.
In court,
Especially if you're
the
baby
medical
daddy.
examiner testified that the gun was fired from at least 3 feet away.
I determined the manner of death to be homicide.
No one is disagreeing that Doug Benefield died at the hands of another. The question is whether or not that death was justified by what Ashley Benefield perceived in that moment.
There was always this little thought in the back of my head that said Ashley's going to do something to him. Ashley's going to sabotage him somehow. So when that happened, I was obviously shocked, but that little voice in the back of my head said I was right. she did. She killed him.
Outside court, advocates for survivors of domestic violence have rallied around Ashley, including her mother and daughter Emerson, now 6 years old.
We want the truth. We want everything out there so people will see that Ashley is not guilty for what they say she is.
The prosecution rested their case today. The defense begins tomorrow.
The defense is going to put on witnesses and evidence to try to argue that she had reason to fear for her life based on the
My goodness, y'all, I'm so sorry. This trial is running much more like a trial that we would expect. Okay, this judge makes rulings promptly. This judge, when she did her little hysterical crying, he sent the jury away. They came back just a moment or two later, just came right back in. This judge is not, he's not wasting government time and resources. He has not helped either side. Well, I guess I did just show you a little clip where the judge was telling the defense the difference between types of evidence, but otherwise he has not helped either side. He has not delayed. We have I think we're like 5 or 6 days of evidence deep, and I'm guessing that they are going to be working on jury charges probably tomorrow. Maybe they are right now.
I understand this, Your Honor, but to me what that says is there are 720,000 times more probable that Doug Benefield touched it.
Yeah, they're working on jury charges right now. So once they get the jury charges set, then they'll present those to the jury, and the jury will go determine the verdict. So I am imagining that there will be a verdict tomorrow. I believe that there's going to be a verdict tomorrow. They're working on the jury charges now. Both sides have rested. They'll do their closings once they have the jury charges set, and I believe tomorrow we'll see a verdict. Now, tomorrow we're also going to see all of the motion trials at YSL and potentially a mistrial. I presume if the judge actually applies laws to fact that there will be a mistrial. So that will be very interesting to see. I will report back to you on Friday at 10 a.m. Central on that one. I will be on a plane tomorrow visiting the great country of Canada. So I am Lauren Cadillac. I am a Dallas attorney. I do real estate. I run Cadillac Law, and I appreciate you for joining me. Thank you for going over this Ashley Benefield Ballerina murder trial. It has been a quick and steady trial. Her lawyer not being that great is probably because she's not that great, and she obviously thinks she's right. She obviously thinks she's going to be able to do things better, and she insisted on testifying for herself, which is never a good idea. And then of course had the interview released over the weekend. So she, instead of, mourning the loss of this man who she was so afraid of, she's out here trying to get all the publicity she can. So I'd be surprised if the jury went any way with the defense. I'm imagining the jury is going to go with the prosecution 100% of the way on this one. But we'll find out hopefully tomorrow. I don't know. Maybe they'll take a day or two, but we'll see. All right, yeah, it does seem pretty open and shut, so we'll know hopefully tomorrow, and I will be back on Friday, and I appreciate everyone for joining me here today. Thank you so very much.